Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's talk about nerve action potential, a DIVYANK design of nature to understand concept very clearly. The prime objective of everyone's life is the perfect physical health, free from diseases, perfect emotional stability, material wealth and wisdom, high education and knowledge, abundance of everything, and lovely life in tune with everybody should be the objective of every human being. The reasons of our failure, we attain even disease-free life? No. Why? Ignorance, inertia is the main concept, a lack of the right education, deficient knowledge of subjects, wrong for human anatomy, physiology, biochemistry and psychology, everything about ourselves and the world we do not know properly. We are biased with information which is absolute no use to lead us to perfect physical health, emotional stability, mental wealth, wisdom and happiness at all. We need to change, and my videos are meant only for everyone to get perfect education of school, college, university, for each and every student, researcher, publisher, uniform, free of cost throughout the world without any doubt. It is not meant for privileged high society students. Everybody can do it. Now, one point which I make it very clear is the Ganit Vidya or the divine mathematics is the something which can help us understand maths, physics, chemistry, medical sciences, other thing. Unless until it is completely one in divine mathematics applied everywhere from highest to the lowest, and also the same symbolic represent you can see DIVYANK, you can see the symbol, you can see everything. Once in light of DIVYANK and this symbol, you can understand the highest to the lowest perfectly, and that is the knowledge which I want the world to, which has never been done in the history of mankind. And I am glad I am doing it, but it is meant for the people who believe it and like to do it. It might take some time to unlearn and relearn, but I want next generation to have perfection from the day one so that they can move upon the application of this in their life and make the peace in the world for everyone. Now, for everyone to understand is the human cell most important, because we are a bunch of atoms, elements, molecules, compounds to the cells, to the tissues, to organs, 10 organ system to the human being. Once we understand ourselves completely, only then we can understand the external world. Without understanding ourselves, extending knowledge from other side does not mean much. We got to be a living perfection in every level. Now, as I told you, we are human and that is what it is. Now, there are 200 different cells. You have reproducing living cells, non-reproducing functional cell, non-reproducing neuron cell, RBCs. Now, excitable action potential is found in muscles and nerves alone, and non-excitable local potential in endocrine glands, etc. Now we are going to see amazing neuron cells, because that is where the functional thing comes. It is structural and functional unit of the sensory system to perceive things, evaluate the knowledge and take motor action for integrated nervous system to be a perfectly healthy person. And these are responsible information from external world and internal organs is perceived by nervous system only. There are 100 billion neuron cells, and that each one can make 20,000 memory synapses. Imagine the power we have. Unfortunately, as a neuroscientist, I don't see people using more than 2% of their potential in the entire life. And Einstein used 11% and became the greatest scientist, and I admire him greatly, and I agree with he had 11%, no doubt. But I don't understand why we can't make use of 100% potential and be in tune with the universal consciousness. And that has been my part of my PhD research work. And I talk about 64 arts and sciences, you know it. All the 64 parts of the brain can produce 8 Hz frequency with eyes open, senses throughout and everything, and once that comes, you know all the knowledge, and that is what I mean by 100% potential to be known. And now we come to the neuron cells, which are part of the nervous system. And I have also made it very clear, RBCs to start with, they are living cells, but at the end they become functional cells. They live only 120 days and they formed in 21 days, I have already explained. But second thing, neuron cells have the nucleus, but they cannot reproduce because they have to have the memory from before birth right up to the end. It should be maintained. So cells cannot be replaced, and to function very efficiently you have to have a neuron cells, but they cannot multiply, they cannot be replaced. So as a result, I have made it very clear, it is centrosome which is missing in a neuron cell, which cannot be converted to centrioles, which are essential for multiplication or reproduction or duplication. That is the kind of knowledge which I want, not a confusing this could be possible, that could be possible, is a very diplomatic and democratic set which does not work in education. And education has to be auto-sufficient, auto-analyzed, auto-realized and completely perfection. And I'm glad that I've done that since my childhood till today. In my 70 odd years of life, I've been able to experience that within me and sharing it, the perfect impeccable wisdom for the first time in history of mankind, and I want everyone to get that. That is the reason I am giving it to things without any rectification or coverings or other thing from anybody, but nobody can find fault. That's it. Now come to the question of Indriya or the sensory nerves, which are neuron cells. As I told you, there are 20, and there are 10 parts in that. Is again something which is in DIVYANK, is then in here also. I have shown that part very clearly in the neuron cell. Now come to the Nernst equation, is something which I have spoken about it. This is a gentleman who made the Nernst equation, and you are going to see more about him. And this is a picture. Walther Hermann Nernst was born in West Prussia on 25th June 1864, which is almost like 175 years back. He got Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1920, and that was the thermochemistry, or the heat of chemistry as such. It's a fantastic work. I appreciate. He has done a wonderful job, and it is something much easier for me to build on it to the perfection. Let's look at his symbol. And he has made it use the symbol of minus 61 as such. But unfortunately, no one discusses what is the meaning of log of 61, why it was used, and they talk about concepts otherwise without realizing what exactly. And I have experienced the log of 61 represent water content in the solution he is talking about. He is talking about sodium or potassium inside the cell, and solution is always with water, and water content is 61.8034, and that's the right answer, and that would give a perfect RMP. Resting membrane potential value only 61.8034 can give you. 61 does not give you that kind of thing. Now this is a picture which is source is Cambridge University. This is what is taught to every university, every student from school, college to the university, for research to everything. This is a perfect thing as taught to everyone in the world. Now I am going to explain this particular concept very clearly, and this is about nerve action potential, and it's a picture from Semprich, and I appreciate that done a good job, but as I know the science also needs to move on, improve upon. That is what Nobel laureates and all the scientists are doing, but they haven't reached the level which I want. Now explain this concept. As in Nernst equation, from 61 I have taken it to 61.8034. Here there are few gray areas which have not been explained. Now let me explain this concept very clearly. Now let's say resting membrane potential is minus 70 in a neuron. I have no doubt it is 70. But in case of skeletal muscles, what Nernst has done, brought it to minus 92 millivolts. But I know if it was 61.8034, it will be 93, which is the perfect thing which I spoke in the last one. And that exactly is also the value of mean arterial blood pressure should be 93. And this also 93, not 92. Not coming to the resting membrane in a nerve or neuron, it is 70, I have no doubt about it. Now the question, when you apply a stimulus, two kinds of responses are got, and this particular research has sub-threshold value and threshold value. If stimulus is not powerful enough to make that sodium enter into the neuron and increase the electricity to minus 55, it remains a local, and that is sub-threshold, and this is what happens in endocrine system and glands. Is very clear. It is not action potential to throw it out. It is very localized action, local potential. This is very clear. I have no doubt about it. Then come to the threshold value. If powerful is more sodium enters into the nerve, and you see a graph which is like a DIVYANK. But very moment it comes to minus 55 millivolts, you can see, then you suddenly find a depolarization straight moving up. It shows right up to plus 30. But in this particular picture, it is very clearly increasing number of voltage. Sodium enters first to the free channels, then voltage gated sodium channels open, and more sodium goes, and as a depolarization, almost this immediate streak. But very moment you come to plus 30, they say sodium cannot enter anymore, though voltage completely close. I agree with that. This concept I have no doubt at all. But very moment they close, then potassium channels open up. I have no doubt. Sodium is closed, potassium is inside potassium is coming out. As a result, there is repolarization. Polarization means both inside and outside are very different. But depolarization, both become same, negative. Repolarization is becoming again polarized, but it comes down. But here you can see voltage gated potassium channels start to close. Is very clear, a close, because they cannot come out more than what is there. The amount of sodium is outside, amount of potassium is inside, and that only what potassium is which comes out, and not sodium at that particular stage. And as a result, they show it has gone to hyperpolarization state in this particular picture, which I do not agree with. Sodium stops, agree. But how did the further fall come through? That has not been explained in any of the things which I understand. And that's where this particular picture becomes very important for everyone to understand that this is the kind of knowledge we should have. But then hyperpolarization comes. Then how hyperpolarization becomes resting membrane potential once again. That also area has not been touched. So there are three areas here which need to be understood clearly, so that we have a clear idea about nerve action potential. And I think keeping that in mind, let's move on. Now, as I told you, this is important thing which I said. Resting membrane potential is equilibrium with nullness actually give. Threshold is value when sodium channels open and electrogenic push comes, and that's it. Polarization is both same. Depolarization both becoming negative. Then supersaturation point is at 30, and it is more than that. Then hyperpolarization is below the 70 itself. These are terms very clear in that part. And skeletal muscle, I said, is 90 is written, but it should be 93. Neuron 70, I have no problem. Smooth muscle minus 60, I have no problem. Photoreceptors minus 4, no problem. Electrocytes minus 850, they are not excitable, and chondrocytes are not acceptable. So excitable and excitable we have known very well on this part. Let's move on to the next stage. Now, now let me explain the concept a little more clearly. Resting membran minus 70, no other. Threshold value is minus 55, no problem. Gradual sodium ion reflux takes it to -55, is the sodium entering very gradually, slowly. You can see a slight thing in the picture very clearly. Fourth is depolarization. Sodium saturation can go up to plus 34 millivolts, not 30. And that is where the concept of 70 to 55 to 0 to 34 is DIVYANK alone. Then sodium channels close, potassium channel open, no issues. And I told you log is 61, it should be 61.8034 or 61.8. Then 6, efflux of potassium comes to repolarization, I have no issues. Then sodium, then question comes. Further hyperpolarization is because now sodium from inside is coming out and potassium is going inside. And this is some research scholars say, but is not in the picture. But now it is said for sodium 3 from inside which come out, only 2 potassium can go inside, and that is exactly 3 and 2 is DIVYANK ratio only. And hyperpolarization is below 70, I agree. But after below 70 to become 70 to resting membrane population, it is sodium influx which is going inside into the nerve, which restores it to resting membrane population. That is. So these points I have made it very clear. But there is something more than that which needs to be understood as a pure genuine neuroscientist or a neurochemist as such. Now, as I told you, extracellular fluid is sodium content, which sodium is outside along the water which goes inside, and its potassium is the intracellular which comes out. So this cell membrane takes part sodium in, potassium out, but in the reverse it is sodium inside out and potassium inside, and it needs ATP, adenosine triphosphate, as an energy molecule to facilitate. Without that it does not happen. So that is what we are now going to look at it little more carefully in the light of DIVYANK. Now I am making it one point very clear. The sodium potassium AT pump is responsible for bringing the sodium from inside the cell after excitation outside and bringing potassium inside to bring it back to resting membrane potential. Now I am bringing the sodium and potential. It is not 3 and 2. And it should be 34 sodium ions come out of the neuron cells, and the protons of 34 sodium are the 374. 34 multiplied by 11 is 374. There are 11 protons, and that's it. It is the electron which becomes atom to electron is only electron, not the protons. That is something which that I am talking about protons, which is the power inside, not electrons, because movement of electron from 11 to 10 it goes in, but proton is 374. Now I said according to DIVYANK there should be 34 and 21 potassium, and 21 potassium ions move into the neuron cell in repolarization. The protons of 21 potassium ions are 399. That means 21 into 19 is 399. Now I am going to show you mathematical design. 399 divided by 374 is equivalent to 20 by 21. This is the Brahmank. This is amazing. How did it happen? And that is what I said in the double helix. Also the same thing. The number of protons of nucleic acid is 136 and 136, and the ratio is defined, and that is the mathematics which I want people to understand. Here it is 34 and 21, not 3 and 2, and the ratio is 22. That means when you have a 22 by 21 you will not need ATP at all. This movement can be perfect in that direction. Up to that an extent it will happen automatically without a sodium, and if it does not happen then you need ATP. That's it. And I think that is the knowledge which is required. If you maintain the sodium, potassium, chloride and other all the atoms, elements, molecules, compounds within the body as perfect as you want, which is given in Vedas and I3 Upanishads, I think you can have a fantastic homeostasis without any problem whatsoever. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. I want people to have perfect knowledge, experience that within the body. Know when how much water is required, how much sodium. Body is going to tell you. And body will give you signals, this is less, because if you have the perfection only, if you don't have a perfection, if you're a diseased person, you have a problem. But I can tell you, any diseased person can also rectify with the knowledge, and that is the kind of knowledge which I am giving it. Now the come to question. Now in this picture I made it very clear. It is plus 34 or 35 is the one which is very clear, and slow I have seen in the beginning part, and sodium potassium 80 pump I have spoken about it, and again sodium again entry into hyperpolarization. These are the 3-4 points which I have brought into the same picture which is there, which rectifies this, and this is the knowledge which I want everyone to have. Improvising on Cambridge University thing, and also the world, we need a science of perfection, and that's what the scientists are doing. I have great respect for all the scientists who have done this work, including Nernst equation, wonderful for the beginning to done, and over a period we have seen how things have. And there have been researchers who have already converted from minus 61 to minus 61.54. I have shown in the illustration. I would like it to bring it to at least minus 61.8, if not 8034. Now I am going to make it very clear. Impeccable wisdom from the state of hyperpolarized state of resting membrane is what I am going to talk. Entry of sodium into the neuron cells from outside takes place. So again going inside, and the divine desire, that is exactly, if you look at the picture of a neuron cell, you will find sodium inside also along with potassium. That's it. Whereas outside it's sodium alone, but inside is sodium plus potassium both. At the RMP there is a sodium also, not potassium alone, and that is divine for eternal great. And I think once we understand that, only then we can move on to the next thing perfectly. So this is something which every genuine spiritual scientist who understands the spirituality completely, also science completely, who understand the maths, physics, chemistry, biochemistry and medical sciences completely, for him each and everything becomes simple. And unless until we have the knowledge within ourselves, that knowledge will not be of any use. And that is what I am trying to explain, how things are. So in the process, I think we have come to realize that this is the knowledge which is better than the knowledge which is available, and with that we can have a perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy life, and without falling sick, and no problem with homeostasis. Body will automatically take care of water content, blood pressure, glucose, all the 10 factors of homeostasis will be perfect. Your inner cell will be perfect. Your brain stem will function very well. Your higher brain will also function very well. You could be very intelligent, very intuitive, and you will resolve all the issues of the world as such. And I think that is required, the knowledge for everyone hereafter. Now coming to the last one, in this is the same concept there. I'm not getting into that. I think it's enough for this. But one by one, but I'm sure next generation, when they do research, they will add value to this with much more applied part. And I would expect everybody to research with DIVYANK, start afresh in mathematics, physics, chemistry, medical sciences, and the world would follow a perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy life for everybody. As a result, every person will become their own doctor. Please don't expect somebody else is going to take care of you. You are your doctor, you are your composer, you are your writer, you are the one who creates. And once that is understood, only every person can lead the world happily. And all the human beings have the capacity to do it. I am no different from anybody else. If I can do it for the first time in the history of mankind, I don't find any reason why others. But it should be much easier, because now you have perfect knowledge which was not available. Now it's up to believe it, experiment, prove it to yourself, do the research, and help the whole humanity and other beings of the world for perfection thereafter. I think that's enough for the day. Thank you very much.